What really holds salespeople back from closing sales? I'm Scott Sylvan Bell. It's June 4th, 2017, 3:03 in the afternoon. Perfect day to talk about sales. Perfect day to talk about closing on video number 1,400 on my YouTube channel. So, I've had the opportunity to ride with salespeople for the past 7 years and ride Copilot and train daily, and it really falls down to 4 reasons why salespeople struggle. So the first one that I'm going to put at the very beginning position is a fear of failure and a fear of rejection. And for whatever reason, salespeople have this fear that if they don't do things right, that they're going to fail. And they don't understand that failure is necessary in all aspects of life, that failure has to happen in order for us to get better. So if you were riding a bicycle, you fell and you scraped your knee and you got better, you learned how to ride a bicycle and you learned how to jump it, right? If you learn how to walk and you have the capability of walking, you fell down a couple of times. You had to fail to learn. Right? If you're in sales, one of the things that you got to know is you are going to be rejected. You're going to have buyers tell you no. And even the best closers do not have a 100% closing rate. And going to that process of them being able to close 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of calls, it took a process. It took time to learn. There's things that they had to get out of the way before that they could learn how to close the deals. Okay? So in the first quadrant is a fear of rejection and a fear of failure. The second is going to be accountability and responsibility. So if you look at somebody who's a closer, you look at somebody who's a performer, they are accountable for themselves. They take care of all their own training. They're responsible for hiring people to coach them. They take the time to learn. They schedule off time in their schedule to go ahead and practice. They are 100% accountable. They know that without that accountability and that responsibility for themselves, nothing would happen. And I see a lot of salespeople struggle where they think it's the job of the manager or they think it's the job of the owner of the company to hold them accountable. And if you really want to close deals, you really want to close jobs, you in the first position really need to be accountable and responsible for all of your actions and everything that goes on. And if you say things like, it's not my fault, it's not my responsibility, these are all things that you need to know that you have taken away and you've taken a step back from doing your job and taking a step back from being able to be a closer or be a performer. And I get it. There's going to be some people who it ruffles their feathers to hear, look, you really can't be a closer or performer if you're not accountable to yourself and you're not responsible for what you do. Sure, there's a couple of outliers out there that they're babied and people take care of them, but if they go somewhere else, chances are good they would lose their ability to sell. Okay. Third, not being dedicated to training. So look, you can't be accountable and you can't be responsible and then be dedicated to training. It just doesn't happen. That's why it's in the third position. You, as a salesperson, really need to train. I've worked with some top-notch salespeople, and one of the most common things is, and one of the threads, is they're willing to train like at the drop of a hat. They're like, look, let's go ahead and get this done. Let's go ahead and get some training taken care of. I really want to work with a professional, and we're going to start with the basics, and then we're going to work our way up. I very rarely see somebody who's a closer or performer that is scared to do a role play at any given moment. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, hey, let's deal with, I want to think about it as an objection, or I want to get 3 bids, or like whatever reason that it is that you hear, that you're like, man, that's a difficult objection to come over and overcome. And then fourth is doubt in the product or the service. Now this can happen over time. This can happen instantly, and this is why it's in position number 4. If there is doubt in your mind as a salesperson, your buyer can pick up in it. Your buyer can feel it. They can hear it in your voice. They can see everything that's going on. If there's doubt in, like here in the brain, they know. If there's doubt in the product or the service or the widget or the gizmo, they know as well. They're picking up on it. They're getting the objections and the cues from you. You just got to know that when you go through a sales process, through the conversations that you have and how you front load the conversation, you're talking most buyers into an objection. You're telling them what you want to hear. And if you don't believe it, go watch some sales process and see how many times that the salesperson talks the buyer into saying, I want to think about it. They talk themselves into a circle, or that they talk the person out of a product or a service because they themselves wouldn't buy it or they have doubt about it, okay? So there's really 4 quadrants that hold people back when it comes to sales. It's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. That's quadrant number 1, right? So that's up here. You got responsibility, accountability. That's over here. That's a 2. Not being dedicated and not being prepared. That comes from training. And then 3 is going to be a doubt in the product, the service, the widget, or the gizmo that you sell. Those are the main 4 areas that I've identified that salespeople really get held back, that stop them performing in the sales process and really hurt them. So your question is, look, are you scared of failure or rejection? Are you in that category? What are you going to do to get better? Are you responsible and accountable for yourself? If you're not, how do you make that better? If you're not dedicated to train as a salesperson and dedicated to sales of the craft, what are you going to do to make that better? And if you have doubt in your product, your service, or even in your abilities, what are you going to do to fix that? There you go. There's the four. Now, the curious thing is if you want to take a look at what a performer does, you're just going to reverse all this information. So if somebody doesn't have the fear of failure or doesn't have the fear of rejection, they're probably a performer or a closer. If they have responsibility for themselves, or if they're accountable, they're probably a closer. If they're dedicated to their tasks, to learning, to role playing, they're probably a performer or closer. And if they don't doubt their services or products, they have all those skills. So it works like a mathematical equation. You put all those things together, you have somebody who's got the skills to be a performer or closer. Now, if you could do a small favor for me, in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story. That would be fantastic. To the right, to the left, there's a subscribe button. You know what you got to do. You got to subscribe. And then last of all, you can send it out to all your friends via StumbleUpon, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Why not even LinkedIn? Sylvan Bell. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Aloha.